So you just say your name and how long you've been on the island?
My name is Michael Howden. I've lived on Maui for about 40 years, mostly in the backcountry. I practice permaculture and permaculture design. And a few years ago, through circumstance, I became a member of the Board of Water Supply. And I was later a two-term chair of the Board of Water Supply. So I dealt directly with a lot of issues concerning access to water, public trust doctrine, etc. And I've always been working in terms of sustainable agriculture.
Okay. So the first question is just what do you know about sugarcane burning?
It's not only...
And, just for a second, the truck may be really loud, so just be aware of that. But if you can just say the question back as a statement at the beginning, because I'm going to cut myself completely out of the interview.
Oh, okay.
So that way the audience will...
Oh, can I see your cheat sheet then?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'd like to comment on what I know about sugarcane burning. I consider it one of the most toxic events that takes place on the planet, frankly, next to genocide. There's a little background around this. First of all, the sugar company, A&B, HC&S, steals more than 200 million gallons a day on average from the East Maui watershed and from West Maui of public trust waters. So I consider this kind of a criminal activity. Added to which their agricultural practices are beyond primitive. I mean, you have all this, clear cut fields and stuff like that, over and over, tremendous amounts of erosion. It looks like the Dust Bowl to me. And then you're adding all these chemicals, so you basically can mine the soil. You're not building soil. There are no windbreaks other than where they want to grow seed corn, or no, excuse me, seed sugar for propagation purposes. And the chemicals that they use are incredible. Atrazine, for instance, is a well-known hormonal disruptor, causes birth defects, etc. So they get away with all this stuff because they're a reasonably powerful corporation. And, once again, in a rural place like Hawaii, you have corporate interests that trump health concerns for the community, etc. And also the law in terms of access to public trust waters. So you have all these chemicals. I had an experience where I was driving from upcountry and I was going the back way to the dump because I had an oversized load and I didn't want to go down the main highway. So I'm at Omapio and Kula Highway. You begin to go Makai. The air changes some because actually that's a pretty intensive, or relatively intensive agricultural district, so a lot of agricultural chemicals are used. So I live in Olinda where the air is really clean, and you're beginning to go Makai. Doesn't smell so good. Then I got into where the cane fields had been burned, the upper cane fields. And you could see the burned plastics, and you could smell it was saturated with the aerosols from the chemicals, the agricultural chemicals that they used. And then, of course, you go to the dump, which is an appropriate coda to that whole thing. But there are so many concerns, and I find it extraordinary. I mean, my friend Don Gerbig, who was on the water board, my friend and colleague Don Gerbig, whom I like personally, but his views, I mean, he's going, well, you have this agricultural act and it permits you to destroy the environment using methods which deplete the soil, erosion, pollute the air. I mean, that's a major public health concern. Lauren Pang would be an excellent person to talk to, our district health officer. But you can see the effects. And in my acupuncture practice, I mean, and also hearing from other complementary health providers and from MDs, every time there's burning, there are respiratory issues that come up for people. It's not simply the VOG, which is bad enough, but at least it's naturally occurring. But this is like, a human-created event, and or a corporate created event, where very deleterious health effects on the community at large.
I think you could go over the second question, which is just tell me your story. Again, I think you did cover that to some degree. So
Okay.
if you go on to the third question, if anything that you know about kind of the precursor to the cane burning, what was going on before cane burning?
Okay, before cane burning, most of central Maui was dry land forest. I don't think it was, there was much inhabitation there, but because it's so dry. You're bringing all that water in from, you're dewatering the watersheds of East Maui and West Maui. I mean, the Iao and Waihe'e aquifers, which supply more than 70% of the publicly used water on Maui, according to USGS, the salinity has risen in those aquifers more than 20 feet in the last 20-25 years. That's very dangerous, and that is just so backwards, and all it is to fuel development and fuel an agriculture that's not sustainable. Yeah.
And the question number 4.
What do I know about air pollution?
You did cover that some already.
Well, one thing you didn't mention in your introduction about yourself is you're a health practitioner.
Yes.
So you may want to cover what do you know about air pollution from the perspective of a health practitioner.
Okay. Yeah, I'd just like to comment about air pollution. As a complementary health practitioner, I've been chair of the State Board of Acupuncture for the last 5 years now. I see a lot of respiratory stuff that conventional medicine finds difficult to address, but where the traditional Chinese medicine, which comes out of an agricultural society, and all the kinds of like dust storms that China is famous for, and more these days. A lot of the herbs enhance, open the respiration, help heal the lungs and stuff like that. But added to that, you have all these toxic chemicals that become aerosols when you burn. And you have this saturation of chemicals that have a especially strong effect on young people and on older people, and the really vulnerable parts of our society. And they're really, in many ways, defenseless because somehow HC&S is treated, it's treated as if it's above the law. And the connections are so pervasive. Recently Sheldon Biga, who is a heavy equipment operator and who's participated quite a bit in the political process. He was head of sign waving for Neil Abercrombie when Neil was running for governor. He just got appointed to the Land Use Commission. Now Sheldon might be a tremendous, heavy equipment operator, but what does he know about land use? Next to nothing. And I remember at the Commission on Water Resource Management, there were some hearings out in East Maui and Haiku and stuff like that. I remember Rick Volner, who's now, I believe, president of HC&S here, or head of agricultural operations. And his attitude toward Laura Thielen, who was the chair of that commission, was not only disdainful, I thought it was like really abusive. And Rick got what he wanted. HC&S got what he wanted. They brought in this parade of people, you know, Sharon Suzuki from Maui Electric, who waxed poetically on how sustainable sugar production is here and how they contribute to the electricity in the grid. What she didn't mention is that, and which something I would recommend you photographing, going over to Pu'unene and looking at these huge piles of low-grade Australian coal. They burn over 100,000 tons of coal a year. At least those are the figures I've been given. You know, and so you have the cane burning, you have very poor quality.
All right.
Is it kind of red now?
It has.
Okay, then, sorry about that.
Oh, can we go back to where we were?
Yeah, should we just check where it dropped off? Is that easy?
Yeah, did you?
I was
You just
writing
looked up that,
notes.
sorry. Okay, if you can, yeah, if you want to just start the list. It's recording.
Yeah.
So,
Could I, sorry, could I add a little something to the
Sure.
test, to that final question? The future of cane burning and what kind of pressure we can put on our politicians to.
thank you. That's a really good.
Okay, the future of cane burning and
Wait, sorry, hold on one more time. We're low on batteries.
Oh,
do you want to plug in or something?
But it might be worth us
He's a
having
fun guy, though. You know, he's just a, you know, kind of a curmudgeon. But we got to be friends, even though I testified publicly as chair of the board against his appointment and John Hoxie's appointment. John had run EMI, the East Maui Irrigation, for 7.5 years. I thought there was an inherent conflict of interest to have John on the board, but they were both, you know, very decent people to have. And, you know, once I got done testifying and they got appointed anyway, then, you know, I just welcomed them in. And, you know, it was kind of fun to work with people that, you know, you look at and you go, oh my God, and then they turned out to be very decent people. We just had different points of view, you know, which is how it goes here.
Yeah.
So you want to try again?